field so that it shows the amount of the qualifying visit and any additional services that weren't preventive. Basically, the total of your CARC 97 and your visit. So those are the two options. This will take your claim to zero unless the patient owes anything, and this will leave a balance out there, but with a printed and transmitted date, it won't get resubmitted. So for the current time, those are the only options that we have at this point. Yeah, is a question that came in here. Okay, it says, you mentioned you do not have any exceptions in the charge master. Is this for any conflicting exceptions, or can we not have any exceptions, period? I'm sorry, I think I misled you there. You can have exceptions. You just want to make sure the exceptions in the charge master are not going to conflict with the billing of the rural health claims for Medicare. So, for example, if you have an exception set up on your charge code, let me think of one exception we might have out there. I mean, it could go to a different revenue code, but that revenue code then would just show on the claim, since we're printing each service line. Off the top of my head, I can't think of an exception, because you can't take a procedure code off. If you have a procedure code on the first screen, when you set an exception up, if you don't add a procedure code in on the exception, it uses the procedure code from the first screen. So I can't think of one off the top of my head, actually. So you should be good as long as you have your procedure code in there. Okay, we have an exception here, or we have another note. Our exceptions change in 983 to a 521 of his rural health clinic. So, and that's to roll it up under the 521, I imagine. Now, under the ruling from Medicare, the only thing they say is to include the HCPCS code and all other billing required codes for your separate lines. And as you saw in the example for the venipuncture, for example, was a 300. So they don't come out in the information I've seen and say you don't have it as a 521, but I would assume that the visits would be the 521. And then there was also multiple visits, multiple procedures in a visit. That was a 521. So I don't know if it would hurt to have those all at 521. That's something we'll probably need to ask Medicare, because I'm not sure if you'll need to change those or not. So I'll add that to my list for Medicare, and if somebody doesn't bring it up in our call, I can ask. Now a couple other things. First, billing concerns that we've heard from people we've talked to. It's time-consuming to edit the claims. As I indicated, we're evaluating some tools like a report to help. Remember, Medicare is probably not going to go back on this because the FQHCs have been billing like this for some time. So I think this is the future. This is what you're going to have to do. The charges on the patient statement will not match their Medicare EOB. So if patients come in and are complaining about that their statement shows this amount, but their EOB shows this amount, the only option is educating your patients. So that's something that you'll have to do. Some of our questions and concerns are how will we balance our PSNRs? So we did hear there's a possibility those will come with individual charges, not the total for the visit. So that we're not sure if that's pending. And the impact on the cost report, we don't know at this time either. So those are concerns with these new billing methods. So we just wanted to bring those out and have you think about those and know what we had heard so far. And Melody, did you want to add to that on some of those concerns?
Oh, thanks, Peggy. I think that pretty well covers it. We've got information from iDaily that they believe the RHC cost report may change but again, we haven't gotten any final information from Medicare.
Okay. And then we do want to let you know what we're looking at for changes regarding the new billing requirement. First of all, you need to know that modifications will only be incorporated into version 11 and higher. So we are not taking those back to 10.4.3. Those will only be in 11. So if you haven't scheduled your version 11, but we don't have the changes out there yet anyhow, but you will need to want, or you will want to schedule that 11. So when we have those available, you'll get those. We're still working on final design modifications. These are pending the CMS rulings and clarifications on multiple topics. Questions you've asked today, questions we've asked, that we're still waiting to find out how we handle certain situations. In the future, our answer is going to be to use all-inclusive charges for Medicare. Right now, the reason we're not is we would have to have you set up your all-inclusive charges for Medicare, and we still wouldn't get a clean claim out because the all-inclusive charges won't add everything up into the visit line and the individual lines. So we felt it would be more work to set those up and then edit the claims than to have you just change the total visit line on the claim. So we need to make some changes to the all-inclusive charge feature. So we'll be doing that. It was originally put out there, as I had mentioned earlier, to do an all-inclusive rate. It was especially for Medicaid so that we could build a T1015s on separate lines. What we'll be doing with those all-inclusive charges is we'll have improvements to performance and inquiry, so you can more quickly add all of the charge codes into the list of codes in the all-inclusive charge codes. And then in the future update, we'll update the functionality for the rate field to allow the AIC to be used as the qualifying visit charge code. So our way of the future is the all-inclusive charge, but until we get the changes in, this is the best option, is to have you edit the visit line. I did have a couple. Go ahead.
So if they're going to use that all-inclusive charge as their fix for it, are they going to have the capability of building a CSV file so that we can import that on those? Because that is going to be a ton of work.
That's a good question, and it is something we're talking about.
So I don't even know how they would do it without that.
Yeah, I didn't bring it up because it's not something that we've delved that far into since we have to make program changes, but we have talked about the amount of work it would be and that we do need to help with that. So that'll be information we'll have as time goes on. Okay, that's a good question and probably eases the mind of several of your peers. Yeah. I do have some other questions coming in. One is this for bills after 4/16? No, it's 4/1/2016. So this takes effect April 1st of 2016. Back on the revenue codes, where their exceptions are changing the 983 to 521. No, I'm sorry, this is a separate question. It says, how will this affect automatic crossovers? We don't expect that it's going to affect the automatic crossovers because, again, Medicare is doing this already with another type of facility. So with the federal facilities, the federal qualified healthcare facilities. So they do have the individual services, but they do have the total visit. So they know the portion of the total visit that is attributable to each of the different services provided. So this shouldn't affect the automatic crossover to secondary payers. When we send the 837 file in, we send each of those lines in, and we also send the total visit with the inflated amount. So they have all that information coming in. So no changes expected there, though.
What about manual secondary billing?
Manual secondary billing is going to be a little bit more of a challenge because now you've got that all-inclusive visit line there, which is not correct. and you've got the individual lines. So if it's going on a 1500 for a secondary, then what's going to go over there will, it should actually be the right amount. Thinking about it, because when you create a 1500 from a UB, then it will take the original charges and move those over to the 1500. If you do a transfer for each individual charge, that's when it would take that inflated value for the visit line. So you would have to end up in editing that on the 1500, the amount of that. So in a way, it's going to be better because those individual charges will go, but that visit line will be inflated if you just transfer individual charges over.
Peggy,
We have
on billing,
yeah, go right ahead.
on billing the secondary though, is there going to be a problem with matching the inflated, the EOB from Medicare when we send it to the secondary? Because it's going to be inflated.
I don't think there will be, because they're still paying the visit total. And then with all those separate lines, they're just doing that 97 code, which is a denial. I can't say for sure. That's something Medicare would have to answer how they're going to do it. All I've heard is they're not anticipating any changes, so I'm not quite sure how they'll accomplish that. So that's something we'll need to put to them. There's a couple of really good questions coming in, so let me answer those as well. What will happen if not all of our 4-1 claims are processed prior to making the change in the system? There could be laggers or corrected claims from earlier dates of service. And my recommendation would be that you're going to need to edit those to make one line with the 521 and roll it up for the claim that you're sending that's prior to April 1st. So that would be how I would file it. I had someone mention to me that they thought they could file with procedure codes. And even now, before we get to April 1st, I've never seen that happen, so I don't know if that's feasible or not. But to be safe, I would roll it up manually and send it. So by moving the remaining balance to post as denied, is this still going to adjust that balance off? No. When you do the denies, it doesn't affect your claim balance at all. It just marks the transaction as denied. So the question goes on, if it doesn't adjust it off, what financial class is that balance going to remain in? The balance will remain in the next financial class that bill goes to. If it's paid and there's no secondary, it will remain in Medicare if you don't change it to self-pay. So it will work just like any other bill where it will pass on to the secondary payer, and that extra amount doesn't remain with Medicare. It goes with whatever financial class you send the bill to. Now, it won't show up on an aging report because your bill was correct, your payments were correct. That $3 is going to affect the reports and insurance processing is what it's going to affect. So if you wanted to print out like a Chase report or an aging report from insurance processing, those reports look at the claim balance, and that's where it's off. Your bill in AR will be perfect, so your bill will be good. The question has more to it. If Medicare pays and the secondary pays, it should put any balance. Let's hold on, I went the wrong direction. It should put any balance to self-pay, which would be incorrect in this case. Now, once again, I just want to remind you that those extra amounts are not on the bill. Your bill will be fine. Our worry and our difference here is the claim. So looking at an aging report, you're not going to see any of those extra amounts. So if it gets paid off, the bill balance will be zero. The claim balance will not be. So it's going to be confusing to see the claims be different than the bills, but the positive thing is your bills will be right. It's going to be exactly the revenue you earned. So that's the difference there. And we'll bring this up too in the user group meeting here in a couple of weeks. Our Centric user group meeting will cover some of this again. Yes, but when we do our ERA upload, you select self-pay for next payer. So, yep, again, it will make it self-pay. So if there's a balance left on the bill, let's use an example. We had our $76.40 for our visit and our $3 venipuncture, so we had $79.40. So if Medicare pays $76.40 on there, our bill is going to be fine because our bill was actually $76.40. Let me bring up that example again. Let's go back to the visits here. Here we go. So here, this is the one I'm referring to. The bill in AR would be $76.40. Our claim is what is $79.40. So if Medicare pays $73.40, we'll have $3 left on this bill. But we're going to have $6 left on the claim. So if you turn this to self-pay, we'll have a $3 self-pay balance there. But here we would have a $6 balance. If Medicare pays it in its entirety, $76.40, using a payment and adjustment, our bill will be zero. Our claim will not be. So this is actual real life. Our bill is $76.40, and Medicare will pay off of that. The claim is what is like fantasy. It doesn't match our bill. So if you do on your ERA upload, say make it self-pay, your bill will become self-pay if there's any balance, and your claim will still sit out there at whatever the last payer was. So it's going to take a few times to look at them and see them. Another really good question, how will these changes affect the billing reports, i.e. revenue reports? Will there be balancing issues when comparing billing reports to AR and GL? No. We will not inflate our charges. Our charges are going to be exactly as you entered them. You would have entered this $73.40 as an office visit. This will create a journal entry for $73.40 to the revenue account for office visit. You entered a venipuncture for $3. We created a credit to the lab general ledger account number for this $3. In total, we created a debit of $76.40. Your revenue reports will be solid. Those will match your bills. It's only the claims that will not balance to anything. So there'll be no problem whatsoever with balancing your revenue because we're not changing anything there. And that's one of the nice things about this. We're not changing anything in our whole billing process. The only thing we're changing is to add those individual lines to your claim. And then you're changing the total visit line. So nothing changes up through bill post as far as your bills. And we had several people suggest that we do inflate the charges, and the answer is absolutely not. That has to match your revenue, and everything will be good there. So, and you can be confident we didn't make any changes to the billing program whatsoever. The only way we're getting these lines to drop separately is by changing the settings in the patient class file and the revenue codes. So this did not require a program change to make this happen. So we've not made any changes to the software for this. So billing will work just like it does today. Other questions? That's all that's come in so far. Okay, we will keep you updated on anything we learn from the call with CMS or any new information we get in as well. So we'll forward, I think we'll probably forward that on and ask them to include it in the Learning Express. We'll definitely cover it in the Centric user group meeting in a couple weeks, and I know you'll see more coming from us. But if you have any questions, please feel free to email me and let me know, or Melody. We are doing this presentation again on April 7th at 1 o'clock. So if you wanted to join to see if anything's changed at that point, feel free to do that as well. Thank you for your time. The recording will be available also, so we will get that out. Have a great Easter.